No, no, not at all.
Coach,
How
all
do
these
you
veteran
manage?
players coming back. I was going to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you manage the challenges of roster management in terms of the transfer portal and COVID years, like how you may have begun to evolve your process? Because, I mean, it used to be the days of everybody had 13 scholarships, use them all, and now it seems like you've got to be ready to pivot at a moment's notice like we've seen before.
Well, I do. I think, you have to be in a position to pivot, alter, and change. One of the things in recruiting, there's two boxes that I feel like for me that I always have to check. There has to be a need, and then there has to be a want. And so, I could want somebody. If we don't need them, I won't recruit them. And if we, want them, but we don't need them, and we don't want them, I won't recruit them. And so, whether it's the transfer portal, high school kids, or whatever, the foundation point is checking those two boxes and making sure things, whoever we add to the team fits. And I feel really good. I feel really good about our team last year, and I feel really good about our team this year in terms of developing guys that have particular roles to make this a really good basketball team.
You see with that veteran team, is your approach at all any different now that you've got these guys back and you go next level, or maybe get a little deeper into anything at all?
No, I went next level on them last year. I only have one level, and it's on. And so there's no difference in approach this year compared to last year. The attention to detail, the focus on our preparation, our practice, and letting our play speak for itself. Those are the things that I consistently talked about last year, and those are the things that I've consistently talked through the off season and at the beginning of practice.
How comfortable are you a different head coach than you might have been a year ago approaching it for the first time?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a difference in me as a head coach this year compared to last year. I've said this before. I've always, being in this role is a place of humbleness and thankfulness to be in this position. It's always been about giving back and giving to these players and to this university everything that Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge gave to me, and I love being in that position. I love this job. I've always wanted to be a part of this program, and to say that I've been able to be a part of it as a player, as an assistant coach, and now as a head coach is a really cool deal.
This program's mission is always win a national championship. When we talked to the kids in July, and then you heard RJ today, several of them said championship or bust. Are you okay with that mindset?
I'm okay with them saying that. For me, I don't look at it that way. For me, the thing that one of the many things that I loved about last year is I felt last year's team reached its full potential. And I think everybody would say last year was a successful year. Well, last year we didn't win a national championship, but I felt like it was a very successful year. That is my determination, that is my hope this year, is that this year's team reaches its full potential. My hope in reaching our full potential puts us in a position to be where we were last year and maybe change the narrative and be the last team standing on Monday night. But the focus and the process for me is on the practice, on the preparation, on the process, and letting our play speak for itself.
Do you like how they've approached that with you, and just with the work ethic and every element of the approach?
That's fine. I don't mind the differences of approach as long as the foundation of what we're doing is the same. And it's the same. We are all aligned. There is a hunger and a thirst, and it's coming from many different directions from the former players. There's a hunger and thirst amongst the freshmen who saw what happened last year from the sidelines, and now they're front row and center. And then the addition of Pete Nance, who has never been to the NCAA tournament, there's a hunger and thirst coming from him as well. So it's coming from different directions, but they're all aligned in trying to become the best team possible. And so I like, wherever you come from, as long as our foundation point is the same, which I know and believe that it is, then I'm happy where we're at right now.
Hubert, you returned 4 starters. That's been pretty well documented.
Yeah.
One that you didn't lose was pretty good from beyond the arc. Based on what you've seen in practice, I know it's early, but what gives you the confidence that you can kind of, keep up that outside shooting and to keep that as a focus team?
Well, we have a number of guys that can shoot the ball from the outside. Yes, Brady was fantastic for us last year, but going into this year, we weren't looking for a Brady Manic replacement. Brady is Brady. Pete is Pete. Dontrez is Dontrez. Puff is Puff. And so the reason why that we wanted and needed Pete was because of his skill set, his talent, his ability. And so it's not a situation of that would be negligent on my part to ask anybody to fill a role in which they would have to play like somebody else. I want them to be their own player, their own unique way that they bring value out there on the floor. And I like where our team is at. I like the potential that we have, and we'll see what happens this year.
Made a hire similar, those guys are going to go through a similar thing that you've been through in preschool for this league now, having coaches, first time head coaches played at the school where they were coaching at school.
Well, for me, it's, and that's why I can say that it's not a job for me, it's missionary work, because it's a place that I've experienced. It's a place that I have always wanted to be a part of. I think it's also unique. Not only myself have been a player at Carolina, every assistant has played at Carolina, with the exception of one of our wives. All of our wives had gone to Carolina as well. And so I think, all the experiences shared between all of us, I think it's a big deal. It speaks to what this place is about, and you look at it differently. You don't look at it as a job, and so I would assume that everybody else feels the same as I have felt, and all of our assistant coaches feel at working at North Carolina.
He said that he goes to sleep at night and thinks about the responsibility he feels to that program because of just how he thinks about it, and that drives him every day. Did you have that kind of experience?
The drive and the determination is for the love of not just this program, but this university and this community. I just, even when I retired from the NBA, my wife and I decided to raise our 3 kids in Chapel Hill. So it's much more than just a place that we work at. It's home for us. And so, and also there's everything that I do is filtered through what I think Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge would do. And I know that they're not physically here with me, but it's very important for me to make them proud.
I heard you break down Armando's game on the court, but with his foray into television, some tips and pointers with him as far as acting ability goes.
I think his acting is fantastic. He's somebody that is very charismatic. He loves to be in front of the camera, and it's something that he's always been interested in. And so after he has a long, unbelievable NBA career, you could see him on a sitcom or a Netflix series, and it wouldn't surprise me for Armando to be the star of the show.
What are your thoughts about the fact that a guy like him, a lot of guys in the past may have pursued a professional career, he can come back to school, he can make NIL money, he has these opportunities to engage in things. It seems like it's almost good business in a sense to come back to school in a way that maybe it wasn't for a lot of guys.
Well, I do, the NIL opportunities, it is different than in the past. And so for all of our guys, not just Armando, I've always been in favor of NIL, and it gives them an opportunity to benefit off their name, image, and likeness, and I'm in full support of that, and I love that. That, to me, was not at all the driving force of Armando, Caleb, RJ, and Leaky for them coming back. I 100% believe that the experiences that they shared last year, I know it's hard to imagine, but they like it. They like playing at Carolina. It's not that bad being in college and playing at Carolina. And so the experience that they had last year, they didn't want to give that up. They wanted to have more stories and experiences, and that is what drove them back for another year.
When you were last year, a lot of people criticized the ACC during the regular season, questioning your strength. I think you were pretty strong about the ACC all year, saying it's a great, it's a good league. But the tournament teams proved it, so to speak, with how they played. You guys, Duke, Miami. Do you think that the league got that proved something about that everybody was off base with what they were saying, or was it just?
I don't know if it proves anything. The narrative was that the ACC was down last year, and I 100% disagree. I've always felt like the ACC is the best college basketball conference in the country. I felt that way last year, and I felt that way this year. It was not surprising to see the success of Notre Dame and Miami and Duke and ourselves in the NCAA tournament. Wake Forest and Virginia were unbelievable teams that could have made a deep run and won it all last year in the NCAA tournament. And so I feel like we're in a really good point this year with our strength, and again, we'll prove it again out there on the floor how strong our conference is.
What has surprised you about Pete Nance's game?
I'm surprised that he's not in the NBA. With where the NBA and the game of basketball has gone with mobile bigs, I'm surprised he's not in the NBA. He's a legit 6'10", 6'11". He can guard 1 through 5. He's an excellent shot blocker, alterer of shots. He can handle the basketball. He's a gifted passer. He's an unbelievable communicator and screener. And he shot 45% from 3 last year. I'm surprised, but I'm also happy that he's not in the NBA and that he has a North Carolina uniform on. I'm very happy with that.
He has a lot of extensive experience guarding a lot of good bigs in the Big Ten.
He does.
You now have 2 guys that can guard in the post. Obviously, that was one of the intriguing things, I would imagine, bringing him on. How have you seen him as a defensive player for you? Not just, you said he can go 1 through 5, but as a guy who can really grind on the post.
It is. We were limited with our depth, and, it showed, for example, in the national championship game with Armando not being 100% and, McCormick really doing a great job posting up down low on the block, and, it's to have that depth down there, but not just Pete Nance, but Will Shaver came in the middle of the year, and having that half a year experience of getting crushed against Armando in practice every day allows him to have growth, and he's in a great spot as well, and he's somebody that does a terrific job of banging in the post, whether offensively and being physical, defensively on the block. And so I feel like we have more depth in that area, and that puts us in a better position to defend down on the block.
Coach K and Roy weren't just successful coaches; they were also kind of the face and the voices of the ACC.
Yeah.
It's kind of a void now, but your position as the coach at North Carolina puts you in a position where you can have that kind of impact. Is that something that you embrace? Is that something you want?
That's not something I think about. I just had a conversation with Coach Brad Brownell. One of these events is really cool because you don't really get a chance to talk with other coaches during the game. You're trying to win, and so like in these situations, you can have 5 or 10 minutes where you're just talking. And one of the things that I told him is that the reason he asked how much did I enjoy my first year, and I told him, I said, I just love being in this position to help out the kids. Like it's just really, I want things to work out for them, and to be in a position where I can help them do that, assist, do that, encourage them to do that. That to me, that's why I'm here. That's what I think about. It's about helping and serving. To be the face of the faces of the conference, that's just not something I just think about.
But I mean, in your position as a North Carolina coach, though, if you feels strongly about an issue, say NIL or something like that, you have a podium, you've got a soapbox to be able to make for people to take you seriously and to listen. I mean, is that something that you've considered?
That's something I haven't thought about at all. I just haven't.
Yeah.
You know, I think about two things. I think about how to do my job and why I do this job.
Thanks.
Two-part question, Coach. The first one being last year before the game in New Orleans, Coach K said that one of the things that he respected about you is that you were trying to put your own stamp on Carolina, not just do everything the same way that Roy was. What is that, your own stamp? What stamp is that? What is that?
Well, I think the stamp is me personally, my personality. You know, as I said at the press conference when I took the job, that, you know, the foundation will never change as long as I'm here. It's been tried and tested and proven successful in some place that I'm not going to veer or go away from. I'm just not. I believe in it. Carolina will always be and always look like Carolina, whether you played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. That's the way I feel. But I have to walk, I'm walking the same path, but I got to do it in my shoes with my own personality. And the only thing I know how to do is be myself. And so the stamp that I've put on the program is just my personality and who I am as a person. And that's the only way that I know how to coach.
And the last thing was, you know, I remember us having this conversation last year about how excited are you? You said, I'm ready right now. I wish we could do it like right now.
I'm ready right now.
Right, so that's what I'm about to ask you, because I see the guys in their jerseys and their uniforms, like they're ready to go right now.
No, I'm ready right now. I gave them Proverbs 14:26 at practice yesterday, and it talks about having a hunger. And I kept talking to the team. I said, are you hungry or are you satisfied?
Coach,
And I told them that I'm not hungry, I'm starving.
I'm ready to go.
Coach, can I ask, because you obviously have your own coaching style, but being Carolina player, coaching tree, everything, who do you think you emulate, or who has the most impact on your coaching style, Dean or Roy?
You know what? That's a very good and valid question. Both of them.
Yeah.
I've, but not just them. The 3 years that I was coached by Pat Riley, the years that I was coached by Jeff Van Gundy, the years that I was coached by Don Nelson, the years that I was coached by Doug Collins, the years that I was coached by Rick Carlisle, you know, the players that I played with Doc Rivers and Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki and Michael, like all of those experiences, even the 7 years at ESPN, sitting there at practices and watching Coach Pitino go through practice and Coach Izzo and Coach K go through practice. Like, I've just been really thankful to be able to see a number of different things, but I am bound by Coach Smith, Coach Guthridge, and Coach Williams.
Thank you for your positivity, sir. It's honestly last year, like I do a couple of podcasts, and last year I kept saying, watch, Carolina's going to go the distance because Coach is so positive.
I like positive.
I do too. It's so much easier to be.
Let's be encouraging.
Thank you. By the way, Jennifer Lewis with News Stitch Radio.
Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir. Thank you.
Coach, I didn't get a chance to ask the players this, but what was the situation with them coming in, jerseys on, ready to go at media day? Is that some type of mentality you guys are taking into the season to let everybody know that?
No, I don't know why they have their uniform on. I think they were doing a photo shoot and they were told to be here and they didn't have time to change. I don't think that was a message there's no game today.
I was curious about it.
And we have today off of practice. So.
But my real question, what is the one thing that can stop this team from getting back to the national championship?
You know, again, that I'm not thinking about getting back to the national championship. The focus is us becoming the best team that we possibly can be. I think if you're focusing on the end result, I think you miss it. You know, I think about that. I mean, at the end of the day, in order to get there, you have to be pretty good. Well, so let's work on being pretty good. And then if we're pretty good, that gives us a chance. All I want us to be pretty good to give us a chance. And let's have fun along the way.
For this team to reach its potential, is there an aspect of the game that you think needs to be better than it was last year?
Yes, everything. But we got to be great defensively. It's just plain and simple, period, the end. We got to be great, and I think we have an opportunity and a chance to be great on the defensive end. Last year, when we held teams, we were bound by three things: defense, rebounding, and taking care of the basketball. When we held teams of 45% and lower, when we out-rebounded an opponent and we took care of the basketball, we were undefeated last year. When we held teams of 45% and lower and we out-rebounded an opponent, we were 22-2. The losses that we had is we didn't do any of them. And the only one that we came close to when we didn't do any of them was Kansas. And so we got to be a great defensive team.
Coach, John Shire was here earlier and said that you guys had a laugh at some point in the summer as the rare person who has to follow a Hall of Fame coach at a blue blood national championship program. He said, I think we have a lot of empathy for one another because there's only so many people who have been in these shoes. What do you recall about that exchange, or what can you tell us about you having walked what he's about to walk?
No, we've had a number of short conversations while we're out recruiting. One of the things that I asked him was, I knew that he was, his wife was expecting their third child, and I asked him, have they had their third child and how they're juggling, because with three children you have to play zone. Somebody's always going to be open, and so how are you handling that, becoming head coach? And so just being able to not empathize, but to kind of relate. I have three children, and so Coach Shire is a fantastic person, an unbelievable coach, and he's going to do an unbelievable job at Duke.
Can you talk about how important Charlotte is to your footprint, to the Carolina
The
nation?
what is?
Charlotte.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, my dad,
you came.
my dad, he grew up in Pineville, North Carolina. He went to South Meck. He was one of 13 children. My mom and my dad went to Johnson C. Smith, which is here in Charlotte. And so I have a number of Davises that live here in the Charlotte area. And we're really excited about playing in the Jordan Classic in December and coming here where there's so many Carolina fans. So Charlotte has always been a great place for me my entire life, and I love being here.
Hubert, you talked about putting the Superdome, kind of giving that visualization last year, but until y'all got there, it was just a building, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So when you come into this season, how much did last year's Final Four experience kind of shape how the guys are prepared coming into this?
Well, I think it puts them in a much better picture of what it's going to take to even have a chance to get there. You're right. Like last year, it was just a piece of paper, and it was just a bunch of words that they were listening from me. And now they know. Like I don't have to tell them. They know if they're practicing hard enough, if they're preparing hard enough. They know what it's going to take just to have a chance. And that's the cool thing about it, is that they already know that. I don't have to say that to them. And not only do they know it, they believe it. And I don't know, when you get a taste of that, CL, like that experience, that's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Like you want to be there again. I told you before, like that moment there was only one other moment in my life where you felt the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and I remember that moment for the rest of my life, and I want them to be there again.
And they're going to be in their third year starting together as a backcourt, Caleb and RJ. Just what ways have you seen them develop? Like how bad was it in the beginning? Because even Coach Williams talked about being in the COVID year and not having the summer, to kind of prep them coming in.
That was huge. That was huge. It wasn't just. It was a combination of things. One, I've always believed that it's really good to have older players at your position to to help you, to teach you how to prepare, how to play, how to practice. They didn't have that. And then you combine that with COVID, it wasn't just a different year, it was a year of separation. And so last year was the first year really together, having a normal experience with being together, developing a relationship, playing in front of a crowd. And so their relationship all throughout the year just kept continuing to build it. Like they have a great chemistry with each other right now. And I think it's because last year we didn't have those COVID restrictions and they were able to spend time together, not just on the court, but off the court.
When you stopped practice yesterday,
He's been waiting a while.
go ahead.
When you go to the transfer portal, are you looking for a specific need,
Yes.
a specific?
Yes, 100%. Checking two boxes, a need, and in that need, who do I want? Plain and simple, period, the end.
So when you went in the portal this year, what was that need that you're trying to fill?
We needed Pete Nance. We needed a 6'10" guy that can defensively switch every position, athletic, can shoot the ball from outside, can handle the basketball, can make plays, can that experience, that hunger and that fire. What we got in Pete Nance is exactly what we needed and exactly what we were looking for.
When you stopped practice yesterday, what led to that, and how does your message in moments like that differ than when Coach Williams delivered such a message, other than the profanity?
What do you mean?
I mean, is it delivered the same? Is it
Did
the
I
same
do
sort
something
of message?
like
When you stop practice and deliver a message of accountability at a practice?
Yeah. No, I'm the only way I know how to communicate is straightforward and direct. I don't speak in tongues or interpretation. There's no vagueness about me, and so I keep it real with the players, and I expect them to keep it real with me. And so that's the only way I know how to communicate. And if I have to stop practice, I have to pull somebody aside. And when I stop practice or pull somebody aside, it's not negative. One of the things that I always tell the guys is I am never, ever, 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 ever calling a player out. I am always, always, always calling them up. It is. I'm just calling them up because I want them to be the best that they can be. And so I'm never calling out a player. I call them up with encouragement.
You mentioned how the
last question with Puff, with Dontrez, with Seth Trimble, like how would you like? I know it's going to be different when the games start and things happen, but in terms of a rotation, like what would be your preference to how to utilize those guys off the bench if you're drawing it up right now?
You know, that's a great question. You know, the rotation is set by the players. I'm very clear and definitive. If you want to play, you got to play well in practice. You want to stay in a game, you got to play well in a game. And
right.
So the rotation, those things are developed over time. You know, to say what it's going to look like now, that's
right. I know.
It is very difficult, but I will say this: it is a need for us to have depth. It is. It's not sustainable to have RJ, Caleb, Leaky, Armando playing in Pete, playing 39, 40 minutes a game. It's just not. We need consistent depth coming off the bench, and I really believe that we're going to have that this year.
Thanks, everybody. I got to get into it ready.
Appreciate it, Hubert.
Thank you so much.